having conversations about an important topic in a group of this size with the level of experience in the room, and that being lots of different kinds of experience, from leading organisations to delivering to working in policy and funding, that's a very difficult thing to get together. So having the think tank just brings those people together in a framework which allows for some really expansive and experimental and risky thinking about being able to say things that maybe you wouldn't say in another forum.
There's something rather magical about Snape. You can almost, when you see people arriving, you can see a sort of, everything relaxes, and that creates an openness which makes conversations really easy.
It feels a seminal moment when we're thinking about the health and well-being benefits of participating in the arts. It's really important to think about the person delivering the session. So there's a point where if the arts are positive for participants, so too must they be for the person delivering it.
What are we training people for? Of course, we're training people to exist in the world of work, to have careers, obviously, but also to ensure that they are giving as artists as much as they are gaining, and that there should be no real distinction between what you can give on a performance level and what you might be able to give on a participatory or a community level, and that they should really be interlinked. So that's, I think, the most important thing.
Investing in the musician, their own work, their own development can really underpin participatory practice. So it doesn't need to be about investment in participatory practice, it's about investment in individuals who first and foremost are musicians or creative practitioners.
I think when you're being placed in certain situations that ask a lot of you, it's sometimes easier to think about the participants in the room than it is yourself. And I think that can create residues of emotions which then must filter out into the loved ones around you. And I think the world would be better if we not only developed our own tools for that, but also had support in doing that. I think it's a mutual thing.
We're talking about doing something that shifts culture and shifts the perception of what is a musician, and to try and take away hats and to think of a musician more broadly across all kinds of areas and genres and experience levels and types.
People who do participatory music and people who work in performance, and that even by talking about participatory art, we're making that distinction, or we're talking about participatory artists, that we're making a distinction between those two things. And that is something that I suppose have been uncomfortable with for quite a long time.
I think this comes down to a really basic question of identity. So I think if we can create spaces where everybody feels met and understood and allowed to be themselves in all sorts of different ways, I think that we'll be taking a big step into creating artistic spaces where resilience is supported because vulnerability and difference are embraced.
This is going to be an example of something where there's a much longer, slow burn in terms of how we develop the actions from this particular think tank. To shift that culture isn't something where we're going to say, here's the aim, here's the objective, let's make it happen. What was also really fascinating, we last night, at the end of the day, had a group of musicians who are here currently on residency, developing on their own ideas and their own projects. They all came and joined us for a sort of more broad discussion, and straight away you could see some of the stuff we were being talked about put into action, which has resulted in one of our musicians going away today and ordering earplugs, scheduling their day differently, making sure they had time away from the space where they're creating. So absolutely straight away you can see some people completely advocating for what are the conditions for a musician to make their best work.